Back on track here. This is our shopping application in the current state. Have a bunch of products you can filter for specific products. In the future, though, we're going to need lots of other views for our users to be able to interact with our website. Maybe we want to have just like a home page they get navigated to by default. Maybe they can, open their cart, which we were talking about maybe having in the future. They can click on a button and it brings them to a place where they can check out. Lots of different pages that we could add here, and we need a way to tell React which component or which page we want to be showing at any given moment. And this is like a concept called routing. There's a very predominantly accepted routing solution for React called React Router. I don't think I've ever had any reason to use anything else, although there probably are other options. But because React is a single page application, which means like I could use my entire website without reloading the page or like physically going to a different HTML page, and React instead renders all of your pages through really complicated JavaScript. And your whole application is controlled just by using JavaScript to add elements, remove elements, so on and so forth. I can logically represent different pages like that, but also it would be helpful for the user to be able to go to /user in their homepage and hit enter, and that would take you to a page where you can edit your user information, stuff like that. And we can use sort of this URL bar to logically separate our different pages of our site. This is sort of mimicking what would actually be happening for if we were creating an application that had like a server component to it. Historically, what would happen is you would go to a specific URL that connects to a server somewhere, and then that server decides, depending on what URL you sent, like what HTML page and associated JavaScript and CSS it's going to send back to your browser to actually render. In this case, we're rendering all the same thing, and our React application is sort of routing on our front end just inside of one HTML page. So we're going to set that up. Step one is to actually install it. So I can npm I React Router DOM. If you look through documentation for React Router, there's going to be just like so many different ways of doing things, because React Router like very heavily overhauls their application between major versions. So the most recent major version for React Router is version 6 point something. And it is just so wildly different than version 5. So you might come across documentation on Stack Overflow that looks very different from what this website is telling you. It's quite likely that it's from a lower version of React Router. Version 5 even is very different than version 6. We're going to stick on 6 for now. A great place to get started is just like going to this page and going into the getting started section, going through this tutorial. This is a good a good starting point. All right, so we're going to do this, and what it's going to tell us is that we need to install React Router DOM. There's some other stuff that it tells you in the tutorial, but this is just specific to this example application they're working on. React Router DOM indicates that we're installing React Router for like React on your computer in your browser rather than React Native, which is another framework for writing mobile apps in JavaScript. We're not using that here, and so that's why we're doing React Router DOM. So we can do that, and it'll add some packages and do some cool stuff. I'm going to git check out a branch for this router demo. And you'll see that it updated our package.json. Cool. So let's do some really quick planning. Let's figure out what pages we want to throw into this application for now. Thinking again that we only have about 45 minutes. And so we won't be able to do a crazy amount, but we can at least sort of get things started. I think I want a homepage. And on this homepage, it can, I don't know, greet the user and have buttons to go to other pages. Step one, other pages, maybe our product table that we already have. And so this has our search feature and our table of all products and so on and so forth. Maybe we add like one extra page here for viewing a specific product. So view individual products. And here would be like if I click on one of the things from this table. So if I click on a product from the table, show more information about this product. Design line. And other things that might be helpful here is if I go to a URL that doesn't exist, it should probably tell me that. Right now, if I go to localhost/user, this is like not a real URL. It doesn't make any sense. And we're still seeing our application here. So we need to like show a page here that says you went to an invalid page, you dummy. We're gonna let you know and send you back to homepage. Cool. I think this is a good starting point. I don't even know if we'll be able to get through all of these and make them look good, but at least we can throw them all in very haphazardly and go from there. Questions so far? Anything you think we're missing here besides an R?
Are we doing this in the main file or objects?
I'm just planning things out right now. We're going to start working in the main.jsx next. But you can, you don't even have to write these comments if you don't want to. This is just so we're all on the same page. All right. So with that, here's what we're going to do. We are going to go into our documentation here and make sure that we know what we're doing. So in version 6, the way that you create routes for your application looks very different than version 5, as we said before. With version 6, we kind of have this like hook-like structure where we call a function and provide it an object that describes all of our routes. In version 5, rather, what we would do is we would have like this element structure and we would like declare a browser router. And then inside of here, we create a routes component. And then inside of our routes, we create individual routes and stuff like this. This is what almost all the Stack Overflow questions related to React Router look like. But we're going to do things a little bit differently because we're in V6 and we don't have to do that anymore. So in V6, it recommends using this new data API. And so there's a couple different kinds of routers we can create. All of these down here serve a very specific purpose, but are not really applicable in the general case. And all we want is just a browser router. So this does not support this new API that they have in V6. So we're going to stay away from this element structure and we're going to go into this sort of hook-like structure. And what we do here is we call create browser router, and then we give it objects that define the routes that our application needs to have. And then down here in our main, instead of that app component and our React strict mode, instead what we're going to do is we're just going to provide a router provider. And the router is going to take care of showing specific pages when we navigate to that location. So let's do that. Let's create a browser router. I'll zoom in a little bit just for those of you guys who are looking. And we're going to pass it in an object. Oh, no, we're not. We're going to pass it an array. of objects, and then in each object, we're going to declare what we have going on here. So property number one, we need to actually tell it what the path is. So the path is our base URL is not included in the path. It's everything after that base URL. So this path would be /user. This path would be just a slash mark. This is our home route, essentially. And so let's create our home route first. So this would be our home page that we described up here. This is what happens when I go into my application for the first time. And we can declare what element is going to be shown when I go to a particular route. This element is like a React component, which we could put our whole product table in there right now if we want to. I'm probably going to restructure things a little bit so we have like a clear definition of what is a page component versus what is like a component that goes inside the page. So I'm just going to stub this out for now and say we're going to make a home page element, and that doesn't exist yet. And so it's going to be red and squiggly. One convention that I've seen fairly often is to split up this source folder depending on the type of the React component you're creating. So maybe I create like a pages folder, and then inside of here is where I create all of my components that represent a whole page. So I could call this homepage.jsx, and we'll declare this function really quick. And we'll just return some placeholder content until we can get back to it. And now we're going to export default homepage so that our other files can use this component. And now if I retype this homepage, hit enter, it should import it for us automatically. Cool. So we have one route. Right now it doesn't look like anything, but we could actually test it and make sure it works. I'm going to take out this app component. We could leave in strict mode. This is really just like for development purposes. It's not hurting anything. So maybe we just add our router provider here, which is the component that provides this router that the rest of our application is going to base itself off of. So we can pass in any of those routers that the documentation was telling us. All these other things we could also pass in there, but we have a browser router, so that's what we're going to pass. So now if I go in here, I think I stopped it. I did. Cool. So we're at the base URL, which matches this slash mark, and it displays this homepage that we have. All right, so this is not super helpful, but we could add extra paths in here. So let's do that. We have our homepage. We're eventually going to want to see all of our products. So maybe I create another route here for /products. And I spell it correctly on the first try. And in here, we're going to add a products. We'll just add the products table component entirely. Which we already have. So this product table component is already defined over here. It has some amount of products, and we can search by a specific criteria, and we'll go from there. This actually doesn't look like a whole page because I'm passing in props to it. If I'm creating like a page component, I don't want to necessarily be passing props in. Rather, it would be better if my page could be like the top level, and any data that I need to provide to that page, I do it through a different means. So maybe this product table doesn't actually make sense to put as the page, but rather what's in this app.jsx right now, which has our search bar plus our product table, which together makes up the whole page. And we're not using this app.jsx anymore because we removed it. And so now maybe we can use that as our page instead. So let's do that. Let's rename this something more descriptive, maybe products table, product listings, maybe. And we'll go ahead and put this in our pages section as well. And this app.css was supposed to go with it, but there's nothing in here. And so I'm going to take all that out. All right, I see a couple of comments. Yep, package.json, it should be in there to check your version, which if you're installing it now, it should just automatically go to version 6 unless you specify version 5 explicitly. So we should all be working with the same API here. All right, I'm gonna close this once I can move all the Zoom components out of my way so I can actually see my screen. All right, so we changed this name to be products listing. I'm gonna rename this app file as well, or rather this app component. And we'll have to rename it down here. And this app.css we deleted, and so I'm going to get rid of that so we're not importing it either. These import routes, because I moved my file, should have been updated automatically. This 2 dots means go up 1 level and then look at a specific file. So this says go out of my pages and then look for a product table, product data, so on and so forth. I'm not super happy with this either. I think I would like to also be able to make this a little bit more organized. So maybe I create a folder for just general components. This will be like any React component that's part of a page, but not the whole page itself. Again, this is not the objectively correct way to organize things. I just think this makes the most sense for what we have so far. And so some miscellaneous things would be the search bar and the product table. So maybe I copy those into my components section. And if I go back in here now, it correctly tells me that it's in the components folder. So again, it updated automatically, which is really cool. All right, one more thing. This product data.js looks kind of I don't know, it looks in the middle of nowhere to me. I'm gonna maybe create like a final folder here for just utils. So things that aren't a component or a page that just need to go somewhere. I'm gonna stick it in there. And we can use that in the future as we see fit. All right, did some reorganization. Looks a little better to me. And now we're good. So this home page we have our product table. We said this is not a page, rather we want to use our product listing component, which is the whole page. It has the search bar and the product table in it. And now I have some stuff imported that I'm not using anymore. All right, let's go back in and make sure our products page works. Sweet deal. I can go back to the previous page. I can go forward to the next page, so on and so forth. One of the cool things about React Router is that your browser router maintains a history of all the pages you've been to in a data structure called a stack. A stack is like if I, is that someone speaking? All right. If you have a question, feel free to speak up, but I don't think this is a question. So I'm gonna, all right, I'm gonna mute for a second. All right. So like your router maintains a stack, which means it's like a stack of papers where the oldest thing is on the bottom and the newest thing is on the top. Every time you go to a new page, it just sticks it on the top of this like physical stack of things. And when you go back, then we're taking it off the stack and it's no longer the current page. So whatever you're looking at is on the top of the stack right now, in theory. And when I go back to the previous page, we're taking the thing that you were on which is the top of the stack, and taking it off, and now there's a new top of the stack. Um, it's a cool data structure that is very applicable in, a good amount of problems that you're trying to solve. I would say it's a fairly common data structure. If you're interested in researching a little more, I think it's pretty cool. But because our router maintains a history stack, then when we go back and go forward, which just issues commands into our page, the router can listen for those and navigate the stack appropriately. All right, so we have our two pages here, but you might notice that again, I can go to a random page, and this is telling us that this page doesn't exist, which is correct. This is just a default 404 page. We probably want to make a better one. So let's go do that. We'll create another page here. And export it. And in here, maybe we'll just make like a really big H1 that says 404 not found. And we could add some styling in here if we really want to. Let's do that just for fun. I'm going to make this a div, which is just an empty box, and we'll put the header inside of the box. And then we'll add some properties here. We'll make this width 100 view width, which means the full width of the page. Our height is going to be 100 view height, which is the whole height of the page. And then we'll make this display flex. Justify content, center, align items, center. And so this just says display it relative to other things, and we're going to center this thing in the center horizontally and also vertically. If we look at this now, it's not going to do anything because I didn't actually use this page yet. So I can add an error element here to these pages, which says if something goes wrong and this route like doesn't render anything because maybe the component threw an error, like, if you try and access a property of something that's null, then it'll give you that really scary warning in your console. That's a failure, that's an error. But also, if we just don't go to the right route, then it's going to default to this error element. And so we'll make this our not found component. And I think this will work. Yeah, there we go. We have our 404 not found, centers it in the middle of the screen. Conflicting peer dependency ESLint. I don't know about this one in particular. My guess would be that React Router DOM has a transitive dependency on ESLint, which means you depend on this, and then it depends on something else, and that depends on something else, and eventually that chain gets to ESLint. But you probably have a version installed in your package.json that's problematic. Or maybe it comes from, yeah, we have it installed as a dep dependency here. This comes from Vite specifically. I'm not sure why you would be getting a version error if I didn't get one. Uh, wonder if it could be like that you did it as a dev dependency or something. PMI save dev react done. I don't think this is going to change anything. Yeah, it still works. Well, I don't know what to tell you. I think maybe this would be something that you could Google and try and find on Stack Overflow. Or like figure out what package is causing the problem and see if you can update that So I could reinstall an older version of, like a newer version of some package. If it tells you what other package is having a problem, you could do that. Or we could just try and bump ESLint and make that more recent if that was problematic. Maybe you could reinstall ESLint. Does that bump anything up? No. Well, all right, now we're getting the same kind of issue here. Hmm, curious.
What
All right,
does dash save dash the thing that you just typed on the terminal means?
yeah. This save dev here just saves it as a dev dependency rather than a regular dependency. So it saves it to this dev dependency section, which is things that should only matter when you're actually working in your VS Code or whatever editor you're using, and
Uh-huh.
not going to be included when your application is actually running in the future. So ESLint just checks my code to make sure that it's valid JavaScript. It doesn't need to do that when my application is actually running. We should just know that it's valid JavaScript, and so it's a dev dependency instead.
Okay, that's cool. Thank you.
Mhm. Question, the old way of creating routes can't be used in the latest version. It can. I could still create a browser router down here and create a routes element and so on and so forth. This is just a newer version of the API that they're recommending we use, and so I would recommend you use it too. But this older version, that's not going away because that would like break a lot of people's code, and they don't want to do that. If I upgrade to version 6 and this old version is completely non-functional anymore, then people are going to be upset and stop using your library. But if we still support it and just recommend highly that you migrate to our new version that has cool new features, then that's a better path forwards.
Okie dokie.
All right. So let's do this. I said that I want to have um some buttons where I can navigate to other pages, but I also probably want to have a button that can take me back to my home page. So maybe I have like a navigation bar at the top that lets me go to either my home page or my products page, and I can go back and forth whenever I want. That would be really nice to have. But that nav bar needs to be available uh on every single component. And so this is where an outlet comes in. Essentially, what we're going to do is we're going to create a page that has anything that needs to show up always in our application. Application is a strong word. You could put an outlet in any page and say, you know, any like sub pages here, anything that has the same route plus some extra content at the end will also, have this thing on it all the time, but we're going to do it for our whole application. But essentially, we're just going to like create a div that has our nav bar. And then separately, we're going to use an outlet component, which says we're going to just stick whatever content is supposed to be showing by like the exact page I'm on and just stick it in this outlet. So I could be on my home page and it'll show just like my welcome banner, or I can be on my products listing page and it's going to show me that table, but it will always show me everything else. And we need a page for that. So let's go create one. Let's call this our root, which is just going to be like the root, or maybe we could call this layout. Let's do root layout. So we have our root layout. And this is a component that is going to return our nav bar up here, and an outlet. And we're gonna set this up. We're gonna make it so that it only has one parent element. We're gonna eventually add our nav bar in here and add some links. Let's just do it really quick. We're here. We'll add one link that takes us to our home page, and we'll add another link that takes us to our product listings page. And now we got to use this root layout. So I could, if I want to, create my routes like this, where this is my home page, this is my products page, and then maybe I have like an individual product page that we haven't gotten to yet, but we will get to, hopefully. This doesn't exist yet. But this makes it so that we need to like specify our error element everywhere, and we can't pass data to nested routes. So I would love to be able to pass data to all of these different pages at the same time. I don't want to have to individually say, well, my home page, I want to get my data from somewhere. And then my products, I want to get that same data again, and so on and so forth. Essentially, these should all be like nested under our root layout. Our root is the layout that is always going to be showing, and then these are like sub routes of the root. So here's how we would represent that. Our element is going to be our root layout, which has our outlet in it, remember, and we're going to specify our error element on that root layout. So if I go anywhere that has this slash plus additional, additional content afterwards, it could be products, could be product, could be user, could be foo, any of those things, it's going to have the same error element and it's going to have the same root layout. And then we can give it children, which is routes that are this plus some extra content. And my children are going to be my products table and my individual product info, which I'm gonna just create this so that it stops yelling at me. This temporary thing as well. Cool. So we have this, and I need to import this component. And now I don't want to have a slash here. I can go to slash products and it will use this root layout, which remember we have an outlet inside of our root. It's going to show us this plus subbing in whatever actual page I'm on into this outlet. So if I go to slash products, it's going to sub this in for the outlet. And if I go to slash products, it's going to sub this in for the outlet. But in either case, I would expect to see my nav bar. Now we have a bunch of extra stuff in here that I want to fix. We had a home page that I completely got rid of. And I'm going to bring that back. Home page. So this path means just the slash. It's still nested, which means it's going to use this outlet. But if I go to the slash, it's not going to just take me to this root layout. It's going to take me to this home page instead, which we should see in a second. But we got to fix whatever's going on in here. All right. Let's refresh, restart our app. And we'll go from there. All right. So we are at just our base URL slash nothing, which means that it's going to match to this route. And more specifically, it's going to match to this subroute at just slash. So it's going to show us our route, which has our outlet in it, plus our navigation items up at the top. And then it's also going to show us this homepage, which has content to do homepage. Sweet. We have our links. We have our to-do items. And I can go to these other routes as well. Go to slash products, and it's going to show us our navigation items and our products table. Or I can go to slash products, and it'll show me my navigation items still and info for a specific product. So these are consistent on all of our pages. I would make these look a lot better if we had time, but we don't have a crazy amount of time. So we're gonna just add some like very basic CSS here. Do this. I'm gonna make this font size to be 12. That's too small. Let's make it bigger. 24. And we're gonna make our margin right. Maybe 10 pixels, just so they space out a little bit. And we'll add a little dash in the middle, just so they look like they are separate. All right, this looks a little better. They're still not clickable though, so we got to figure out what to do here. So if I were creating an application that wasn't a single page application, so something other than React, I would use an href here, which says, take me to like a totally different thing. So I could take myself to slash home, or rather just slash, since that's what we said our route is. And here I could say, take me to slash products. And this is what I would do for a non-single page application, because again, this is going to send a request to the server that says, get the page that is that represents this content, and then it'll send you that new HTML page and JavaScript and stuff like that. But we have a single page application. So all we're trying to do here, instead of like refresh my browser and take me somewhere else, which is what's going to happen here, my browser is going to refresh, which is not what I want. It's fine, but you know, that's going to clear out all of our state and do some really gross stuff, and we don't want that. Rather, we're going to use these link components, or even better than that, we're just going to use our navigate API. So we could insert a navigate element, which just like redirects us to a different page. So in this case, this example says, if the user is defined, go to their dashboard. Otherwise, show this form, which is a login. And so this would take us to a different route. But beyond just using this element, we can use navigate, which is a hook that gives us a function. And when we call this function, it'll send us to a different route. So we're going to do this instead. So I can call use navigate. And this is a function. And what we're going to say is, we'll make this a button instead of a link. And when this is clicked, I'm going to navigate to our homepage. And similarly, this is a button, and when it's clicked, I'm going to navigate to my products listings. And so now if I go back in here, they're buttons, so they're no longer links. I would expect probably in a navigation component that is going to be a button that you're clicking. And if I do this, it's going to take me back and forth, and my browser does not reset. It doesn't refresh the page. It's a single page application. Your page should never be refreshing. Instead, we're just navigating to a different route in our header up here. All right. Any questions? I think the only other thing that I would want to do here, we'll leave this homepage empty for now, since it's not really very important we put anything in there. Another thing that we could do is we could add like a button in here or change our product row. Like, say row because this is a row in a table, but our product listing for this individual product, maybe we could change it so that if they click on anything in here, or even if they very specifically click on the name of the item, then it'll take them to that products page. But I do want to just like make sure we answer questions because I think that is like a secondary goal. Any like curiosities, anything I went through really fast that we should go slower through? Concerns? Okay. So with that in mind, what we're going to do next is we're going to use our data loader. So this is something that is supported by this new data API that is in v6. So this thing we're about to do is only really supported for version 6, and in version 5, you'd have to do things differently. You could still accomplish all the same things. But essentially what we can do is we can provide a loader function, which will pull data from a source, and then I can use that data through a hook in any of the routes. It could be like the route that declares the loader or any of the children, they can all use a loader, or they can declare their own loader if they're rendering data differently. So here what they're doing is they're saying, if I go to /teams, I want to load all of my teams from some database. And I'm going to return all of the products that I select, all of the items, since they're not products in this example. I'm going to return all of them as the data that I've loaded up. And this is an asynchronous function because in almost every single scenario, when you load data, it's going to take a while. So, it's expected that it's going to be async and you can await inside there. Or I can go to a route that declares I want to show a specific team rather than all of them. And this route is going to be identified by using a colon and then the name of some identifier. This is whatever you want it to be. But this is a specific kind of thing you can put in a URL that says throw in some arbitrary value here, and that is an identifier to describe an object. So one of the teams that gets loaded here is going to have an ID, and if I go to /teams/1, it should show me team with ID number 1. And if I go to /teams/2, then it should show me a different team with ID 2. And so this ID is used to fetch a specific piece of data. And then we display it here, which is what we want. We want to fetch a specific product and then show it. So let's do this really quick. We're probably not going to have time to fully figure this out, but we can try and speed run it. I'm going to declare a loader in my root element, which says just show me all of the products. And we're just going to make this product loader. We're going to declare this function in our product data function async function product loader. Actually do something useful here, but essentially we're just going to return our dummy data, which we're not pulling from anywhere. It's just hard coded in here. So this product loader in reality should like go query a database or make a call to a server to get some products, but we don't do that. So we're gonna leave it to do comment, just say, we'll do it in the future. And now I can import my product loader. I export it. And when I go to this route, it's gonna load my data. And I can use that from any route that cares about it. Let's say my products listing is going to care about it. Instead of importing my data directly, rather, because in reality, it's not declared in a file that we can import, what we really want to do is say our data is equal to the data that our loader gives us. And when we use loader data, it's going to look in this structure at wherever my component is. I'm in products listing, and it's going to get the closest loader and use that. So I could declare another loader here and it would use that instead. But the closest is actually one level up at this root element where it just loads all of my products. And so it's going to use that for our products listing. And we can pass our data in here to our products array. So now if I run this and I go to my home page, we're going to see that there's a problem, and it's going to show us this 404 not found because our component is actually like throwing an error. I remember struggling with this for a while. /home doesn't exist. That's right. Our products table, though, products is undefined. So this data we're giving into our product table is undefined. Trying to remember what the issue was here. I don't think this is the problem. Just try a couple things really quick. I remember running into this when I was trying to set this up. I don't remember how I fixed it. Oh, actually, I think what the problem is that I have to specify a loader on the component that's actually using it. So this loader only exists for the root layout. So it doesn't actually go to the closest available. I'd have to specifically say this route is using my products loader. And we don't have to return this in an object because that's just like packaging something up for no reason. And rather, my products listing, I just want to get whatever the value it gives me back is. And now it gives us back our data properly because the loader is assigned to this specific page or this route. And in the example that they gave us, we can load a specific product. So I might want to say, well, if I'm going to show a specific product, then I want to load only one rather than all of them. And so I could get my loader and say individual products loader, which doesn't exist, but we'll go create that. And here, instead of returning our dummy data, we're going to say for let I is equal to 0 is less than data.length. If dummy data of I.id. So whatever one we're looking at this moment, if the ID is equal to the ID that gets passed into this loader, then I'm going to return dummy data of I. Otherwise, we're going to return null to signify we didn't find one. This product does not exist. And so here, I can declare /product /unique identifier. And because this is nested, I'm actually just going to stick this in a child of my product route. Because again, we want to take advantage of nesting wherever possible. And don't know if this is going to work. I think what it should do, based on this example, is, no, it's not. So it's going to try and pass an object with parameters in here. So I'm going to do this instead. I'm going to declare a new function that takes those parameters. And we'll just pull the ID out of it using object destructuring. And we will load that product. We're going to rename these. All right. So load product gets everything. Load by ID gives a specific ID. And these no longer need to be async. I'm going to leave them as async. I'm gonna rename these. Cool. So again, slash product is gonna load everything, and then slash product slash ID. It's going to pass an object that just has a bunch of parameters in it. We can't do that. Yeah, do params.id here, according to their example. I got some extra stuff in here. And let's do this. We're gonna load that data. This might be null because we gave the option of if we don't find it, then it's going to be null. So let's check that. Our product is falsy. And we're going to return H3 that says product does not exist. And otherwise, we're going to show product.name product.id here, just to show that we're actually looking at the right product. All right, moment of truth. See if this works. Homepage, products page. Ah, no. Oh, we got to update our link in our navigation. This should go to slash products now because we got rid of that S at the end. All right, so we have slash product, which gives us our whole table, which is great. And if I go to slash product slash 0, that product does not exist. Did I mess it up? What did I do? Oh, I don't need this product here. I just need my ID. Because it's already implied that product comes beforehand. Ah, man. All right, I'm gonna debug this. I'm already over time, so feel free to drop if you are running short of time. I'll post some code for this and the recording maybe tomorrow. Make sure to fill out the attendance before you leave. It's in the agenda on Slack, and thanks for coming. But if anyone has time to stick around, we'll debug this really quick. All right, so parameters, our ID is 1. Ooh, you know what? This is a string, which looks problematic to me. So if I get .id, which is valid, and then I pass this into load products by ID, it's going to compare all of these things, which are numbers, to this other ID. We should have strict equality here. So this needs to be a number when I pass it in. And here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to say if we're going to be really careful here. ID. Let's n equal to number. So we're going to turn this string into a number. This might not work though. So if n is equal to not a number, which happens if I have something that's not a number and I try and convert it into a number, then I'm going to return null. All right, I guess we have to do is not a number. Otherwise, we're going to load our product by ID here. Still not working. So let's console.log this to try and figure out what our product is. Promise. Ah, okay. So it's giving us back a promise because we made this function asynchronous. And it shouldn't be asynchronous. If we're going to return this value, then we want this to be not asynchronous, I think, because this function isn't actually taking any time. This is asynchronous, and that's fine. And just to be consistent, let's do that here as well. Arrow function, and then inside of our arrow function, we just call load products, which can take as much time as it needs. And we'll return this value. All right. Let's see what this does. Slash product. Slash one. Nope. Still not working. All right. There's clearly some more work to be done here for this example. Element. We got our data working at least. But something is still not right here. Our product info should be showing just this one product. Three null. So that's a little problematic. Or why this isn't working first. Our ID is a number 2, which should match with this. It's not. Something's not right here. So what type of think one of these is like yeah, the second one. So this is a string. I don't know why it's a string though, because we explicitly converted it over here. Oh, I just didn't use this. I'm so smart. All right.
You are. Everybody messes up stuff every once in a while.
All right, we got it, kind of. So we're returning our product, but it's still just matching to the wrong route here, when it should be showing us an individual product. And for that, I don't have any clear answers right this second of why it's doing this. Another reminder that this stuff is hard. So yeah. All right, I'll have to look into this a little more offline. I won't hold you guys any longer since I don't have any clear answers. According to this example, it should be just fine, where we have an element and we have like a sub route inside of that. And it should be showing us that child element, but for some reason that is not happening. All right, I'll keep looking into this, and if I find something by the time I post the recording, I'll put it in the agenda in the Slack announcement. All right, well, for those of you who are still here, if there's any questions, I'm happy to stick on as long as necessary. Otherwise, that's all I got. Happy Thursday, have a great weekend, and I'll talk to you guys next week.
Thank you. You too.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Bye, Elijah.
Alrighty.
Good night.
Night.